Welcome back to the CANDYcolored studio. I'm artist Katrina Berg, and this is episode 200. Okay, 200. This is, I don't know, it's a big deal to me. I don't know. I just never thought, you don't know what it's going to be like when you start these things, and I'm really happy about it. So, I'm excited to celebrate with you this week. So episode 200, I thought it would be really fun when I was doing a little mini for the Water for Life charity gala event. We went ahead and did a batch of minis, and so I was like, oh, this is a good thing to do during the summer because they're small and it's easier to get interrupted when I'm doing small things. So as a little peek, I am releasing 4 little landscape minis this week. You'll find them today on my website. In fact, I'll show you how to find them. But while I was doing that, I've been thinking a lot about just favorite places, dreaming about going back to those favorite places. And so here are some of the places I've been thinking about. Some poppy fields. Obviously, I've been thinking a lot about France and Italy, but I've also been thinking about places I've never been. Like, for example, I've always wanted to go see the tulips in Holland, and this one won't be on there today because I think I'm ordered some silver gild, and so I'm going to see what that looks like in silver, but I'm excited about that. Anyways, they're just 4-inch minis. They come with an easel. In fact, let me share my screen and I'll show you exactly where you can find them. So let's see here. Okay. All right. So if you go to my website, katrinaberg.com, and then at the top, if you click on original oils and shop, there is a drop down. At the very top of that, you'll see mini circles, and you just click on the mini circles, and you'll find that these 4 are right there on the first page. So the one I just showed you is Trois Petits Pois, and it's a song by Paris Combo, and it's such a fun song. But anyways, I don't know if you know this, but if you put your cursor right above the like on top of the picture, then it will zoom in and you can see all the lovely poppy and field goodness, all that texture. And you can click on different pictures and zoom in, and that's really fun as well. So you can see that. And then also here's like a little group of all of them, the 4 that are available today. So that's the first one, Trois Petits Pois. The second one is a lavender field with a hot air balloon. And this one is specifically down in Provence. We've got the famous mountains that Cézanne, that he painted. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but he lived down there. He specifically lived in Aix. And when I was on study abroad, I stayed in Aix for like the last month. And that was really, really special. We got to go to his museum, and we went on a trip with our class and got to go see the amazing mountains that he always painted. And then there's some really famous books. I think is it Marcel Proust? Anyways, some famous French books about the area, like some novels, and they were the mountains that were always written about. So they're beautiful, absolutely incredible. Anyways, so there they are, and they really do look blue when you're there. So that one is named Où est ma tête? Where is my head? And it's a song by Pink Martini. I love Pink Martini. So that's the second one. The third one is Quando se ama, and I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. I apologize, but this is another Tuscan field, but with sunflowers. And you can see all the little details in there. This one's a little bit brighter, fun, cheery for summertime. And Tuscany is obviously such an amazing place, and I just wanted to kind of like capture some of those moments that I had there. So this one, the song is by Laura Pausini, and I don't know if you know this, but if you scroll down when you're looking at the minis, I have my playlist right there, and so you can actually scroll down and listen to the song. So let's find this one. It's really beautiful. So this is obviously just a little preview, but oh, there you go. So lots of fun. So again, anytime you want to know what these paintings are named after, usually you can just scroll down to the bottom of that page and find the song in my playlist. And of course I need to do a whole page on my website just about the music so you can get all the playlists. But there's the I guess that's the second one. Yeah. Okay. So the third, oh no, we did the third. Okay. The last one that I'm going to show you, number 4, this is Chez Moi, and it's a song by Blossom Dearie. She's so cute. Anyways, this is a perfect, like, I don't know, just a very, the Aquitaine region in France where we stayed with our family, like this is exactly what it looked like. Rolling hills, lots of different colors popping off those hills, and of course like wildflowers and, you know, local flowers that they were growing along with the produce and the grains in the fields. So Chez Moi. So that's the 4th one. And like I said, you can go and jump on and get those right now. I'll be sending out an email to my email list, so you'll get a little reminder if you want to check those out. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see. Okay, I think it's working. So, lots of things. So as a little studio update, we just got back from Florida. And it was a really fun trip. Our daughter went to her very first national dance competition, and that was really special. We got to go with a few of her friends, and that was awesome. And her director of her studio was there with her family, and that was amazing. So that's what we've been up to. We actually went as a whole family and spent some time in Florida, in Orlando, and that was very special. And then the boys came back a little bit early because it's a long week. And so they came back, and Carl and our middle boy Garrett went off to young men's camp, and the twins got to hang out with their older brother Karsten, and my sweet friend Katie came over and hung out with them, and they had a really good time. So that's kind of what they've been up to. This week Garrett is at FSY, and we can't wait to hear about his experience. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely awesome, and we're just really happy for him. So that's kind of the latest in the studio. I haven't been doing very much because I've been gone, and there were times when I really made an effort to bring my paints, but this particular trip was all about Anna Claire and her dance. And so I had 2 bags. I had one little carry-on bag that fit under my seat, and that's all I brought for me. And then I had another bag that she stuffed with all of her dance stuff, because obviously it takes a lot to take the dance on the road. So it was a time for me to rest and just recoup, and I think that I learned a lot from just taking a break, and so I'm excited about that. Okay, so today we're gonna do an artist tip and topic. Like I haven't done this for a while, but like I'm just gonna dive into some things that I found, and I hope that you enjoy this. So first of all, I'm gonna share this image that maybe you saw circulating on Instagram. Let's see. Okay, so Dadara Art put out this little sketch, and it's called Life of an Artist. And by the way, if you want to watch the video versions of these, Spotify is a really great way to watch, and then also YouTube. I'll have the videos on both of those channels. But I will do my best to describe this little sketch. So, Life of an Artist. You have 2 Venn diagrams. One is from 1985 and the other is from 2022. And the 1985 Venn diagram, it basically looks like Pac-Man going to the left, okay? And so there's one little tiny slice, and that says creating art. And then the rest of the Venn diagram says sex, drugs, and rock and roll, okay? How true was that in 1985? if you're an artist. Okay, now speeding to 2022, the second Venn diagram, now that little pie piece once again says creating art, but instead the rest of the Venn diagram says social media. So I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. Do you feel like that's true for what you're experiencing today, whether you're an artist, a creative, an entrepreneur? Are you feeling like social media is kind of the Pac-Man taking over your art, your world, and kind of like trying to eat this creating art or the creativity part of your soul? Like, obviously, this is just my interpretation. This is not Didara. This is not Didara doing this, but this is kind of what I was thinking about. Okay, let me stop sharing this. Okay, so I have some things for us to think about today. So I have 5 questions that we're going to ask ourselves, okay? So I think the first question is social media a drug or a distraction? What do you think? I definitely have felt like social media can be a drug and a distraction. That's just me personally, but again, take these questions for yourself. And I think it's also important to say, okay, is this something that's happening within my art practice, my business practice, my family life, my, just like the relationships in my life? Is social media a drug or a distraction? Okay. Number 2, if we switch the two, so now the Pac-Man, if the Pac-Man is actually creating art and that little pie is social media, how much more art could we create? How much deeper could we go with our work? And I would say it's very similar with our life in general. So with our family, if we switch that Pac-Man to focusing on our family, focusing on our work, focusing on our relationships, the things that we find most important in life, right? What would then happen if that portion of our life is focused on creating the things that really matter, right? Okay, question number 3. Are we making time for art, or are we making content for social media, right? That's a good question. And then the 4th question is, are we making art a priority? How are we doing that? What does it look like? Okay, so just things to consider there. And number 5, what would if we want to make art a priority and we want to, we want to have some goals to make that, like, how are we going to up our production, right? So a while back, I was hanging out with J. Kirk Richards, at an event, and he basically talked about how there was a time when he made a goal that he was going to paint 100 paintings every year, okay? And I remember sitting there at the time thinking, yeah, that's true. Like, if we don't make a lot of art, then how can we expect to progress with our art, like feel stronger about our technique and our vision coming to fruition, all these things? If we don't spend the time and put in the hours, I don't know how it's actually going to happen, right? I mean, not everyone is like Hunter Biden and can make this amazing art show and everyone buys it. And I don't even know if he's ever taken art classes or spent time making art. Usually we have to put in the time, okay? So what are some goals that we can make to make sure that that Pac-Man part of the Venn diagram is the creating art, right? Or whatever it is that we find important in our life. Okay, so then the second thing that I really wanted to think about, and there were 4 topics within this, but why am I spending so much time on social media? If it's true, if this Venn diagram is an indicator of my time and my energy, why am I spending so much time on social media? Now, you've probably noticed I haven't been on social media that much for a while. There were lots of things that contributed to that. I've kind of dropped little nuggets and hints over time. Some of it was just that I noticed the algorithm. This is years ago. I noticed that it was getting more complicated. You needed to invest more to be able to make sure that your posts are being seen. You needed to make sure you were doing all the little things to play the game so that your social media posts are being seen. You got to do the stories. You got to do the reels now, all these different things. And I remember thinking, is this really what I want to be spending my time doing? And so that was one reason that I started pulling away. Another was when my dear friend Annie passed away, I couldn't get on there without her. I couldn't be on there when she wasn't there. I needed to mourn. I needed to take the time. And then when I got back on several months later, I didn't even understand why I was on there. And it's just interesting. And I think that we all go through things that kind of help us reevaluate what we're doing. And so ever since then, I just found that I was more peaceful. I just felt better mentally when I wasn't spending so much time on there. There's other ways to share my work. Obviously, the podcast is a great way to keep just to get the word out about what I'm working on if you want to follow along the journey. So I think that there's lots of things that we can do. But for me, I needed to spend less time on social media. I didn't want to be stressed out of every day. Did I do my post? Have I gone in there and spent some time interacting with my friends and family and artists? Have I done that? And it took so much time. And so I just slowly started kind of pulling away. And I think it's fine. I think there's times and seasons for all the things. I also, there's some people that want to pass over their social media to someone else. And I think that's great too. But for me, I wanted to just make sure that my account was authentic, and that meant that I was the one showing up. I was the one doing the posts and the stories and all the things. And so it just didn't seem like the right fit for me, but I think that absolutely that is a really good fit for many people. So again, why am I spending so much time on social media? Okay, so the number one question is it for marketing? And I will say that hands down in the beginning, it really was for marketing. And that was a really good, it still is a wonderful way to get your work out there. And I think that it's awesome. What I found was that I felt like I needed to be spending the time creating art, spending time with family, making sure that my mental health was where it needed to be. And so that meant pulling away, right? And so then I had to ask myself, well, what are some other ways that I can market? Obviously, email is like always my go-to. Shows are always a good way to market your art. Events of all different kinds. It can be charities. It can be just like local things where somebody invites you to just bring one piece and talk about it or whatever. There's so many ways that you can have your art be part of events, right? And then of course, updating our website regularly. I think that's a really good way to keep marketing our work and focus on some SEO. Take time to understand how to get your work out there other than social media, right? And don't get me wrong, it's still important. We need to still do, have a place in all the things. But if you're feeling like you are that Pac-Man and you're getting eaten up and you don't have time to create, it's a good time to kind of reevaluate and say, what else could I be doing that doesn't take so much time? Another thing is that I think it would be great to just look at the time that we're spending. Go ahead and time yourself. Say, today I painted straight for 2 hours. I painted straight for 4 hours, write it down. Then say how much time you actually spent on social media. And there are those wonderful trackers that we can put on our phone. How much time did I spend in my email communicating with people? How much, just looking at all those big, where am I spending my time? And I think after we do a little audit of our time for a week or so, it's really obvious where the Pac-Man is in our life, where the little portion is. And then we can say, well, I really want to make some goals so that I can spend more time doing this part of my business or my creative process, right? Okay, so the second thing that I thought about with this whole why am I spending so much time in social media, right? Is it for marketing was number one. The second one is, am I getting sucked in, right? And maybe this doesn't happen to you, but I do find that it's really easy for me to get sucked into social media. You're scrolling endlessly. There's just so many facets to it, right? I'll spend time in the reels, or I'll spend time in stories, or I'll spend time on the feed. There's so many different ways to kind of get sucked in. So for me personally, I love to just tell myself, okay, I'll look at a couple posts, I'll look at a couple stories, I might check on a few reels, and then I'm getting off. So sometimes it's a number. Sometimes I set a timer. I tell myself, okay, I got 20 minutes to answer, to communicate, to do things in social media, right? So again, it could be a number, it can be a timer. There's lots of different ways that we can do that. And then for me, I love to also, like, I found that I just need to curate my favorite accounts. Like every time that I like and save different posts or, whatever within the app, I'm specifically talking about Instagram because that's where I'm spending most of my time, then I feel like I'm easily able to curate what I really want to see. So then the next time I get on Instagram, the first thing I see are those things that I actually want to see, right? So there are plenty of opportunities where the algorithm is totally working in our favor, and that's one of them. And just because I brought up Instagram, that's another thing that it's so easy for that Pac-Man to get so big if we're doing Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and TikTok and Snapchat or LinkedIn or whatever else we're doing. It's really easy to quickly, that Pac-Man just starts to take over. And so for me, I realized I'm just going to invest in Instagram. That's where I'm going to invest. That was a choice that I made a long time ago when my kids started kind of navigating TikTok and Snapchat. And I watched some of my artist friends kind of taking off on those platforms. I'm like, that is awesome. I'm going to sit here and cheer them on and celebrate them. But I'm not going to choose to give away my time to one more thing, right? And that was the choice that I made. But I think it's really important that everybody, go ahead and look and see, actually, I'm doing really well on this particular platform. And so I should put more time into this. And I feel, and people aren't really seeing my work on this platform. So I'm just not really going to put my stuff there anymore. Either way, again, YouTube, that's another one that we can throw in there. So I think it's really important to just figure out what works best for you and make a plan and try it for a while and see how it goes. But again, am I getting sucked in, right? So that would be number 2. The third one, why am I spending so much time on social media, does it have to do with inspiration? And I will say in the beginning of Instagram, that was totally the biggest reason why I got on Instagram was there was just this like daily pick me up. Every time I got on Instagram, I felt like, oh, this is so beautiful. Like, look at this, just kind of like filled my bucket, and then I would go create. But now I get on there and I may not necessarily feel that same inspiration. Now I follow so many accounts and there's so many things happening on Instagram that I can easily get overwhelmed. So I guess it's important to ask ourselves, is it still an inspiration? What would be the word? Like a fountain of inspiration? Is it a source of inspiration, or is it a source of stress and anxiety? So mine had become that stress and anxiety, and also like just kind of keeping me from things I really wanted to do. So then I thought to myself, if I'm going to get back on Instagram, I need to make sure that I can still go and get inspiration. So for example, when I was taking a break from Instagram, Pinterest was a great way to go and, just get other inspiration, but then also just to get out in nature. For me, I love to get out in nature. I love to just search on the web. Like, I do really enjoy SEO and all that I can gain from using SEO, right? So finding other ways to be inspired. So also subscribing to magazines, email newsletters, right? Those are some great ways to constantly get inspiration. Art magazines, style magazines, just like all kinds of different magazines, right? Like those will totally help inspire us in different ways. I also noticed that I was reading more poetry. I was reading, just being inspired by the written word, not just visual things, because that's kind of my go-to. And so that was really helping me. And then, like I said, email newsletters are great because it's a good way to be in touch with the artists that you love without having to scroll through all their stuff and then get distracted and scroll through other things, right? So that's interesting. And then, of course, going to shows and events, art events, that's a great way to get inspired. And so right now, they're just wrapping up the plein air event here in Midway. We were gone, so obviously I didn't participate, but I wasn't really planning on it just because there's so much happening in my studio, and sometimes we just have to make a choice. But it was fun to realize that a lot of my artist friends were down there getting on their groove, and that was really cool. And so that's a great way, even if you're not participating, to go and get inspiration from some of these events. And then number 4, why am I spending so much time on social media? The last one that I thought about was social. So I feel like Instagram, when I was when I had my twins were tiny and I had my other 3 kids, Instagram was such a good way to connect with other artists and not feel so alone, being a mother artist and being in the studio and running, I was homeschooling at the time and I was busy with these other kids. And so there's so much going on. And so it was nice to be able to check into Instagram every once in a while and to have these connections and friendships on Instagram with my family and friends, but also with artists that understood exactly where I was, what I was going through. And that was amazing. However, I don't have to just socialize on Instagram. Like I think that a lot of us during the pandemic, it was like when we could finally get together and be with friends again and events, like that was such a joy to be able to just be social again in person, right? And so for me, I feel like, yes, it's great to be social on Instagram, but it's probably better for me in my stage of life to make an effort and meet up in person. And so I love that. I love being able to sit down and set a time to have a phone call and call up a friend that I haven't talked to for a while. And that is really great. And then, of course, sending an email. Sometimes it's just nice to get an email with a little update of what's going on in your friend's life. And you just want to know what's happening. And maybe a phone call isn't the best, but an email can be better than just like a one-liner on social media. So again, those were the main reasons that I found myself spending so much time on social media throughout the years. So marketing, getting sucked in, and inspiration, and social media, like being social. So I'm curious, what are the reasons why you're getting on social media? Do you have the Pac-Man attacking your time to create? Or, what is it that's working for you? What goals have you set? What things work for you? Those are all a really fantastic conversation to think about, to talk about with your friends and family and your colleagues. These are great things to kind of like do an audit on our time and just ask ourselves, what is it? And what do I really want? And that was something that I wanted this year. I didn't want the Pac-Man to be the sex, drugs, and rock and roll or the social media. I wanted it to be creating art, and that's been really great. So I feel like we're on the right path, and sometimes that looks different during the summer, but it's been really, really good. So, okay, that's our artist tip-in topic for this week. And then I have a really simple red pill for you, but Dr. Zelenko, he passed away this week, and he is just an amazing person. He was one of those people that found some really great ways to help people at the beginning of COVID when we felt like there weren't any options. And so he's amazing. I'm just going to read a couple quotes by Dr. Zelenko. Okay, first one. He said, God gives us the ability to make certain choices so that we can develop a relationship with the eternal within. And I loved that because I've been thinking a lot about that, how there's all these external things going on. But the most important thing is to make sure that we're connected with God right here, right within. I think it's really easy to get distracted, not just by social media, but life in general. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things out there. But when I find the most peace, it's when I'm connecting and feeling that peace right here with God and with my heavenly parents, with my Savior. Okay, the second quote that I'm going to read by him, and I thought this was really great, but he said, anxiety lives where God consciousness is absent. So we have to fill ourselves with the Spirit of God and use that and rely on him. And that will give us the fortitude to be the David that slays this Goliath. So again, something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. I have been thinking about David and Goliath. We were talking about it with our scripture study at home and at church. And then also this whole anxiety thing has really come to the forefront with the last couple of years, but I personally have been really more aware of it as an adult. But I think that the thing that I've been thinking a lot about is fear, and how do I push away that fear from the adversary. And this is what I loved about his quote. Anxiety lives where God consciousness is absent. So again, if I can make sure that I'm focusing on God and having that God conscious right and present, then I can get rid of the fear, the anxiety. I mean, all the things that so easily plague us can just kind of disappear when we make God, just the focal point of our daily life. And for me, I feel like, I don't know, there's been so many things recently where I've asked myself, okay, fear doesn't come from God. Fear comes from the adversary. It comes from darkness. And so if I don't want to have fear, if I don't want fear to become my God, I don't want to worship fear, I need to make sure and replace it with something else. And so if that means, again, having focus on that God conscious and focus on that peace within, then I can just say, fear, I'm not going to worship you today. Sadness, sadness and mourning, that's different. But I'm not going to allow you to cause me so much of this fear grief, right? A different kind of grief, this fear grief, this, I don't know, just this anxiety. I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to spend my time focusing on something else. And these are two of the really great things that Zev Zelenko gave to us. He's an amazing person. I think I did a quote from him a while back where he talked about how goodness would be the evil would be overcome by goodness and love. And anyways, it's a really great quote. I think I did that for a red pill not too long ago. Maybe I'll have to look that up and share that again. But again, Zev Zelenko, amazing man. So grateful that we could celebrate his life this past week, and sending lots of love and peace to his family. This is, I think he has 8 kids that he left behind. He really wasn't that much older than I am. He has a gorgeous beard, but sometimes that makes you look a little bit older, but I don't think he was really that old. So anyways, lots of love to Zev and his family. Lots of love to you, because I know there's lots going on. Summertime is fun and it's exciting, but it's also intense and crazy. And as you know, I know that one of the reasons why I call this the CANDYcolored studio is because I know that life isn't always wonderful and jolly, that there are those hard moments, and that it's important to focus on these good things. Just like Zev said, focus on that God consciousness, focus on the good things in our lives, those happy moments, those candy-colored moments, because those are the moments that help us just hang in there when life is turbulent and crazy. So again, if you get a chance, go ahead and let me know how you feel about the Pac-Man or the Venn diagram that Dadara did on Instagram. Pretty amazing things. Just lots of good things to think about with that. And then, of course, go ahead and check out those minis on my website, and I will have a few more coming out. I'm going to do a few more sunflowers and some little floral arrangements. So keep an eye out for those. Again, so much love to you today from the CANDYcolored studio.